but I don't think Twitter is that central. And again, these are all spinoffs of a technocracy plan launched by IBM and Thomas Watson and the Cold Spring Harbor Initiative more than 100 years ago in New York. Then beta tested in New York City with Margaret Sanger and the Rockefeller Foundation. And they are creating a system that becomes the internet, where they put regulations and controls in and taxes and end internet net neutrality everywhere else, where they force you onto Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter platforms. IBM runs a lot of the infrastructure, or was the original core progenitor, but now is just really a name. And it's the robber baron industrial class, military industrial class, big pharma class, scientific invasion force, just like they were aliens from Mars in War of the Worlds, studying us like a scientist would study microbes in a petri dish, to quote the beginning of War of the Worlds. Think about how epic that is. And then they create a nation within nations within the world. See, globalism always creates master regions and then breaks down the original sovereign systems and then dissolves that into sub-directives that are balkanized but owe fealty to the larger centralized system, itself just another managing board of the other two, the trifecta. 3 global regions with sub-regions, 10 sub-regions with 10 sub-regions within those regions. 3 global regions broken into 10 regions, 3 regions in each with 1 super governing region, the 10th, then with 10 regions per 3 regions. It's almost like Lord of the Rings. Here, have these 9 rings. Here, have these other rings. Oh, I didn't tell you about this ring. Zuckerberg, gets everybody's little meeting. Oh, you'll be the good conservatives that kiss my ring, and you'll be allowed to operate for a while. Here's your free rings. But I have this one. But of course, they know full well he's got the ring. But the truth is, Facebook itself isn't the one ring. It's only a part of the one ring. That's how they deceive all these people. It's amazing. And my dad, again, in Plan 2 in the mid-1960s in high school, was already going to the University of Texas out of high school in the summers. And they told him all this. They were like, here's CD-ROM, and we're going to have a technocracy, and we're going to breed people to be more advanced, and we're going to create this one world government. That was all mainline back then. And then folks would warn about it, and they'd have the national news go, the John Birch Society is completely insane. None of that's going on, even though it was in all these different textbooks and white papers. So you read this article, it is so incredibly profound because it just throws it in your face that that's really what it is. These mega global corporate nations, how do you get people to join a global government? Here's the profound thought. How do you get people to join a global government when there's not a culture, there's not a nation state? It's just some guy from Harvard who suddenly took over a third of the internet and calls his users dumb effers and spies on everyone and is connected to agencies in the government, but that's okay because your culture is Facebook. Your family's there. Your job's there. Where you eat's there. Your life is there. That's your nation. That's your tribe led by a predator who's a front man for super predators who calls you dumb and who censors people around the world and helps the communist Chinese censor en masse. That's how global government has its nations, is its cyber nations. And China has its own cyber nation now. And they've said, we're going to have a behavioral score in the real world, but also in the cyber world, all fed back digitally. And if you do anything anti-government or anti-Facebook or anti-establishment, or even speak out against us, or even don't do exactly what we want, we will downgrade you to a point where you can't get credit and can't operate and can't live and can't even have a website on the internet, period, or on Facebook. Coming to America, China introduces credit score for obedient citizens, social isolation for people who express controversial opinions or dissent. What did Matt Drudge say before that article ever came out, before they announced that? He said, these are internet ghettos where they dehumanize you. And he's the president, unelected. He builds it with the government, with In-Q-Tel, with the CIA. They're allowed to do things nobody else is allowed to do. Everybody else will be sued out of existence. The regulators are hands off. The antitrust groups are hands off. The government lets them spy, do illegal things, hands off. China lets them in because it's part of the takeover. And then your president, your dictator, is Mark Zuckerberg, who goes to Bilderberg and who does big pump and dump schemes on the internet, and who decides who gets to be seen and who gets to heard, and what restaurant gets to have visitors and what restaurant doesn't. Total control over everything if we don't realize it and say something about it and do something about it. And the good news is people are. Even mainstream news says Facebook is, quote, eating the internet. Mark Zuckerberg is director of Facebook. Again, I use that term because they normally dial that back, but this time they're being honest. Mark Zuckerberg, it actually says, is dictator of Facebook Nation, the Pirate Bay founder says. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg is the dictator of the biggest nation in the world. It's got billions of people. The co-founder of the file-sharing site Pirate Bay told CNBC on Friday as he denounced the centralization of power on the internet. Speaking during an interview with the Next Web conference in Amsterdam, Peter Sund said that there is no democracy online. People in the tech industry have a lot of responsibilities, but they never really discuss those things. Facebook is the biggest nation in the world. We have a dictator. If you look at it from the democracy standpoint, Mark Zuckerberg is a dictator. I did not elect him. He sets the rules, he told CNBC. And you really can't opt out of Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but there are a lot of drawbacks in my offline world. No party invitations, no updates from friends. People stop talking to you because you're not on Facebook. So it has real life implications. Yeah, and here's the bigger deal. It's spying on you and manipulating you and taking you out of Facebook if you don't comply, and then acting like it's not a social engineering, social control grid. I'm going to skip this network break. Because there will be no future, there will be no radio, there will be no independent systems if they have their way, because they're going to let Facebook, YouTube, which is Google, Apple systems, and a few others, along with communist China and governments working with them and meeting with Facebook and Apple and others. I mean, Apple makes its slave goods there with suicide nets. That's what they think of humans. They'll do that to them. They'll do that to you. And while you're busy worried about tranny bathrooms and all these faux rights, all of our basic rights are being taken. That's the smoke screen. This man's a dog. A fire hydrant must be provided for him. You know, this is where it's going. The state must pay to dump Drano in this woman's eyes because her identity is she's blind. Meanwhile, we're competing against China that has billions of slaves. 1 billion plus slaves. You understand where this is going? These are hardcore people who funded the Arab Spring to overthrow more truly progressive governments and install hardcore jihadist, Wahhabist garbage. They mean business. Our so-called CIA is openly run by multinational robber barons that have overthrown every country they can, leftist, right-wing, populist, they don't care, to install robber barons to rob everyone and make everyone poor. They want you poor. They want you dumb. They want you stupid. That's why I started the broadcast saying, there's a big club and we ain't in it. Playing the famous clips of George Carlin. Talk about a prophet. And by the way, every time I say somebody's behaving like a prophet, I don't mean they're a literal biblical prophet. I said yesterday in a video that in the People's Message to Donald Trump, you have entered the historical sector or the archetype of a deliverer or a prophet like Moses, taking us out of bondage. I didn't literally mean he was Moses. But see, we're so concerned about words, and most people don't even get the meanings of words or the subtle nuances of language. Just as George Orwell said, the Fabian Socialist plan that he was part of was to reduce language where you couldn't even communicate with people, and there'll be that final generation that has enough of a palette of ideas and words and symbols and ideas that they could ever communicate or resurrect civilization, and once they're gone, it's all over, except for the technocrats walled off in their high-tech system, they will have all that advanced systems, but we won't. You're like, well, that'll be okay. We'll just be dumb savages. No, we're being reduced down to blibbering idiots so that we are profane, and so it's not a spiritual sin to kill us because we will be animals. And then karmically, the elite will not take on the burden of exterminating us. It is metaphysical. It is a cult. I don't follow it. They do. I understand it. There's some truth there, but the way they do it's very weird. I just go with God, go with my gut, go with my center. Well, I see what they're doing. It's very twisted. I don't read it all, but man, they're doing some really bad stuff, folks. And they need you to give up and decide you're an animal. Give up and decide you don't have free will. Give up and start hating everybody around you. Give up and be mean to those that are stupider than you right under you so that metaphysically you can then be preyed upon. Don't prey on people. It opens the door spiritually to get jacked over. Do you understand that? But evil people just don't get it, and fallen people just don't get it. And I'm fallen too, but I mean really fallen. I mean, you like being fallen. I'm fallen and I know it, and I want to get resurrected. I want my spirit uploaded to the real God, and I don't want to hang around with these people. I want to go to the next level. Call it the heavens, whatever you want. Yeah, take me to the mothership. And I don't mean that in a literal sense. You know what I mean. I don't want to sit here and prey on my own species and rule over a bunch of idiots. And everyone's into being victims, and everyone's into being slighted, and everyone's into just fantasy land. And that's the knowledge of evil, not the knowledge of good. And so it is very, very transcendent to understand that they are building a total, complete counterfeit. And you wonder, why is the mainstream media and Facebook culture and Google culture promoting Mao Zedong and stuff so alien, so ugly, so weird? Why do movie theaters in Austin say they want women to pee standing up? That sounds stupid. No, they're being led into the guild as social engineers. They know they're part of it. They know they're following something bigger to end us as a species. They believe if they help end us as a species, that will give them entree to the elite. No, betraying your own species and everything that's good about us will not give you entrance. The elite aren't getting entrance. And by the way, it's not some magical grass is greener, cross the troll bridge, get Valhalla. It's already here. We've been given by the Creator everything we need to build anything we want and do anything we want. Anything. The things we can do today were unimaginable 1,000 years ago. Unimaginable. The things we will do in 100 years if we survive this will be unimaginable. You will not be able to conceive them. What we do after that will be unconceivable to those a year before. And what we do a second after that will be inconceivable to everything that was ever done before. We're entering the unconceivable. Where did the universe come from? Where did it end? Where does it begin? You will know all of that. And then you won't want to screw people over anymore. Once you've been in the presence of God. That's why they tell you there's no God while they fight to act like they're God and say they're God every millisecond because they know there's a God. But they are on such twisted power trips that they want to be gods themselves. When you were made by God, in the image of God, hiding in plain view, you don't even get the riddle that a 2-year-old could figure out. And that's because you're fallen. And you're like your adopted father, the devil, who loves death. And all those that hate me, Christ said, love death, and you love it. Briefly, as I skip that break, support us, buy the products. X2 sale ends in a few days. I'm going to have to end it Sunday because it is selling out and we won't get any more in for almost a month. It's the good halogen. If you don't get it, I think you're nuts. The bad halogens are bombarding us. We're under chemical attack. It's on record. This can't reverse a lot of the damage, but it can stop, in my view, and research more of the damage happening. It's a game changer, and it gets so much of stuff out of your body. It's $23, normally $29. It's the most powerful true iodine out there. It's true atomic iodine out of the earth, totally clean. It is the real deal. It's what God gave us. It's what we operate off of. We die without it. It's why they've done everything they can to starve us of it. They've got